Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Teresa Arevalo. In times of likes, retweets, and favorites, companies are using digital marketing as a bigger and better way to reach their audience. Social media have become major platforms for businesses to market their products. Social media users now have the option to follow and like their favorite brands through Instagram and Facebook. Some students at Cal State Northridge say they like to follow their favorite brands on social media.
I follow high-end designer brands from like Dolce & Gabbana to Ileana Serginko.
Blizzard and EA Entertainment.
Like makeup, ColourPop, and like clothing lines.
A 2014 Gallup poll reports 61% of people say that viewing ads on social media has no influence on what they buy. Only 6% say that it does have an impact on their spending. A survey from eMarketing.com shows traditional ad spending has declined over the years. eMarketer projections show digital ads will account for larger portions of media ad spending. Some CSUN students say social media ads are influential, while others say they are not.
I think it has a really big impact on it because you're kind of forced to see it. So once you see it continuously, well, because people are always searching through their Instagram and their Facebook, I feel like it's a really good product placement.
I feel like we're all numbed to all this advertisement, so it doesn't really matter anyways, right?
Kelsey Ducklow has more on the story.
Thank you, Teresa. Joining me today is CSUN Associate Professor of Marketing, Dr. Kristen Walker, and founder of Apex Digital Media, Dustin Peterson. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
So to start out with, Kristen, how has traditional marketing changed in the digital age?
Oh, that's not an easy question. I think just in terms of context. Ultimately and overall, I don't think it has changed that much. Marketing has always tried to reach consumers. It's just how we reach them now and by what means.
Dustin, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, to that point, a lot of the same technical terminology has carried over from, for example, the print world to the digital world, like above the fold and, you know, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And how has technology and social media been incorporated into that space?
My experience, honestly, over the last couple of years in particular is with traffic. Especially now, Google actually kind of incorporates social as part of what is good SEO. You know, so if you have like social status or clout, if you want to call it that, kind of helps elevate your brand higher in search and other, obviously gets an audience and eyeballs to it.
Kristen, anything to add?
I think it's really intermediaries. So it used to be that a firm, when they wanted to reach out to their consumers, they might ask another firm for, you know, maybe potential segments, potential targets. Now you're really looking at, especially with big data and the Internet of Things, you're looking at a lot of intermediaries like search engines, Google, Yahoo, et cetera, having that go-between between the consumer and the firm. And so I think firms are still trying to navigate. And you hear that with search engine optimization, search engine management, that sort of thing, game the system.
And Kristen, how are they incorporating social media platforms into that as well?
Can you explain what you mean by that?
So now we see advertisements and marketing on Facebook, or brands are posting on Instagram.
Right. Well, firms always want to go to where the consumers are, and most consumers are on social media these days, and so ultimately they're trying to reach them in whatever ways they can. So you see, for example, the recent outreach to Snapchat, right? Any way that firms can get to customers, they want to.
Okay. Dustin, anything?
Also helps build brand loyalty, you know. Obviously, if you're a fan of Nike and you want to see their newest pair of shoes, you follow them on Facebook, that's going to pop up in your feed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Kristen, can you briefly describe or explain what marketing is and how it may differ from advertising or branding?
Well, I think it encompasses all of those things. So marketing as a field, it really takes into account not just public relations, not just advertising, not just personal selling, not just word of mouth, all of those things. But in essence, what marketing is really trying to identify the wants and needs of consumers and then figure out how to satisfy those needs.
Okay. Great. Do you want to build on that? Or?
Yeah, no, I think she's right. Basically, I think marketing is kind of the all-encompassing term for advertising and branding and all that.
Is there a platform of marketing or advertising that you find, maybe in your experience, to be most effective in reaching consumers?
Well, when you say platform, I think in terms of technology, again, we're just talking about a medium. So I can tell you that social media as a platform has been successful. It's been successful in reaching consumers, not necessarily, and building those relationships, but not necessarily in terms of revenue or monetization for those actual intermediaries like Facebook. Google's done a more successful job.
And what kind of traditional platform is the most successful as far as revenue?
Well, I think you'll find television is still very successful, but print is used most of the time in terms of the traditional mediums. But again, you're seeing that shift. Large budgets are being turned over.
Dustin, do you find a particular platform of social media to be the most successful or effective between Facebook or Twitter?
I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. For example, if you run a crafting business, Pinterest is probably a great place to, try and build a following, because, that type of audience that's interested in like pretty photos and designing things and stuff like that tends to be there. Whereas, if you want to interact more directly with your followers, or you're a celebrity or something like that who needs to interface directly with your audience, Twitter's maybe better because it's more instant and more right there. So I think it really depends on what your goal is.
Okay. Kristen, besides social media, what other methods are used for digital marketing? We talked about SEOs, if you could explain that a little bit, or any other.
Well, search engine optimization is really a way for a firm or an intermediary to be able to work their algorithm magic, which is really almost like a recipe for where they're going to place those ads and for which consumers see that. I think that you'll see that in terms of content, that's going to be shaped a lot by future technology innovation. So even the talk about the iWatch, for example, you're going to see a lot more applications. And if it's applications, you're talking about content that has to be quick and easy, lists, top 10 lists, that sort of thing.
To that point, Google is already kind of veering towards sites that are built for a mobile user experience. You'll get a higher search ranking if you're optimized for a user on an iPhone or a tablet.
Right. And are there any other elements that you guys use at your firm for digital marketing that are?
I mean, it really runs the gamut. It depends on the person's needs. E-commerce is a big one that we run into a lot. There's a lot of platforms out there, plug and play type stuff like Shopify, where if you have a home store, you can jump on it and just plug in products and run traffic to it, and it has like a whole, you don't have to hire a developer to code. It's just a customizable storefront. So we've run into a lot of that, like because of the way the economy is shifting. A lot more people are kind of starting their own businesses, becoming their own, their own paycheck, so to speak.
Yeah. Dustin, what are some of the advantages of social media marketing and digital marketing?
I think it's more immediate response is one, and the other is traceability, right? So if someone clicks on a link, you can tell where that person came from. A lot of times you can cookie their browser and serve them follow-up messaging and that kind of stuff. So.
Anything to add to that, Chris?
No, I think he brings up a really good point, and that's really consumer information. I mean, we're really talking about, when they say big data, they're talking about, in marketing, marketers drool for that big data. Consumers haven't really figured out how many companies are gathering information about them and when they're gathering that. So that's another sort of ethical dilemma that I think marketing is facing.
Are there any disadvantages that you have to social media, digital marketing?
With social media, and I've seen a lot of, obviously you've probably seen it in the news, it's because it's so instantaneous, you can do something without thinking that will cost you your career pretty quickly. So I think it's something, etiquette is something that probably colleges and schools are going to probably end up teaching people in the long term, but I think it's here to stay. So.
Yeah, and I think, those kinds of mistakes were easier to be overlooked because you didn't have as many eyes on the prize, so to speak. These days, it is so fast and immediate. But I also think that, as I said, the ethical situation, I mean, we're gathering a lot of information about consumers, and most consumers don't really even know that that information is being gathered about them. So what is that going to, what's that going to pose in terms of a threat in the future? We're not really sure.
Is there a disadvantage for the firm to use social media marketing or digital marketing at all?
Again, they can, they can flub and do something that kind of tarnishes their brand, so to speak. But I mean, as long as you're careful about that and you run it through a chain of command, and that can be prevented. So.
Okay. Kristen, what strategies are most effective in digital and social media marketing?
I think it's the same strategies they've always been, which is to have a strategy.
Okay.
I think for many years, social media marketing was sort of relying on the interns in the field to sort of go out, and because they were users of social media, they could do it when the sort of the managers in marketing couldn't. But I think that gap has sort of been dealt with, and you're finding people really talking about what's our voice on this platform. And our voice on this platform could differ from our voice on this platform, and that is strategy, because then you're really talking about having a specific tone, a specific type of reach for a specific type of consumer.
Anything you wanted to add to that, Dustin?
No, I think she's right. Like I said earlier, I think depending on what you're trying to do, obviously a crafting audience is better found on Pinterest than it might be. Not that you can't find it on Twitter too, but it's a matter of what you're trying to do at the end of the day.
Could you expand a little bit on that different voice on a different platform? If it's for one product or for one company, how their voice might change from platform to platform?
Well, I think you touched on this a little bit when you were talking about you might want to use Twitter for certain things. I think, Twitter tends to be more informational. It doesn't mean that engagement doesn't happen on Twitter, but it hasn't been in the past. They're trying to fix that as easy. Where you see Facebook, it's easier to get sort of the metrics that are important, the reach, the shares, the likes, those sorts of things, and the comments. And really, marketing right now is all about trying to measure what impact and what effect we have on consumers. And we're, I think, practitioners are trying desperately to sort of attempt to measure that, but we're still not quite sure.
Okay. Dustin, how important is digital marketing and social media marketing in the overall marketing buy?
I would say it's probably the first priority, but I'm a little biased. I think for a brand, just to back that up with some actual data points, you have a visible, you can see what your return on investment is, right? So, if you go out and spend a couple $1,000s in Google AdWords and you have it set up right, you can see how much business that spend generated for you, almost to the penny. So, I think for that reason, it should be top of mind for most marketers, because you're going to get the most bang for your buck.
And do you have any clients that are apprehensive about the digital marketing side? Maybe some that are older that have been geared more towards traditional marketing that are apprehensive about using it?
Yeah, I mean, so my background, I used to work with people who monetize websites and built. The one thing I ran into a lot was what she touched on a little bit with the privacy thing. They're worried that, am I being tracked? Am I invading my customers' privacy and that kind of thing? And one thing I always ran into was it's almost like the things that your credit card company, the data they sell on you is so much more detailed and more creepy, but you don't see it in real time like you do with a browser ad, where it's like they know you visited this site, and it's almost like they're targeting you like you're watching a TV show. Like they know you're watching Project Runway, so they're targeting you with fashion ads. They know you visited a car site, so they're targeting you with car ads.
Great. Kristen, based on a recent Pew study, 61% of Americans say that social media has no effect on their buying habits. In your work, have you found otherwise?
It sounds like a vague question, I guess. I mean, I really do respect Pew, but ultimately, I think that consumers aren't necessarily aware of how effective marketing can be. And, peer groups, for one thing. You're talking social media platforms. You're talking about some of the actions that your peers take. That's homophily. That is, you're more likely to take on that same behavior, to like the same things. And marketers can learn a lot about your interactions with people in your social platform network. So,
Dustin, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, to add on that and kind of tying into what we were talking about earlier, there's a temptation, I think, to tie a little too much data sometimes to digital marketing just because you can. Where like with a banner, for example, it's like if someone doesn't click on it, the advertiser's like, oh, well, that didn't work. But you could also look at that more like a billboard, where it's like, oh, I saw that, and it still influenced me to watch a show later, even though I didn't actually interact with it and click on it. So.
Okay. Advertisers play a lot on emotions and stereotypes, making women want to feel beautiful or feminine, or making the public want to feel loved. How does this translate from platform to platform, or translate from traditional marketing to digital marketing, if it does at all?
Well, I guess as a marketing professor, I would sort of not call it making. I don't think marketers make people do things. I think that we understand consumer behavior, and that the best marketers are able to provide what the consumers want and need in the manner that they need to receive it. I think that crosses platforms and boundaries. Again, I think it goes to where the consumers are, and consumers are online. Consumers are on their phone. Maybe they'll be on their watches, who knows? But ultimately, that's the only goal, is to reach them and to get them to take an action.
Okay. Did you want to add anything?
No, I think she
Great.
covered that really well.
More towards the money side of things. Dustin, how do you measure the success of social media when it's used in marketing?
So to me, and I used to work with a firm that did like celebrity stuff and like sold like social media. Social media, like when it first started, it was really hyped. Like Kim Kardashian made $10,000 for a tweet or whatever. It's really tough to tie consumer action to it unless they click on a link from a tweet. To me, it's more of a branding play. I would not recommend marketers use social media to drive revenue.
Okay.
It's more of kind of like a, hey, this is our brand. We're associating with these influencers because they represent our brand. You know.
So there's other impacts besides monetary.
Yeah, well, it's more of a long-term play, right? I think if you're looking for initial, like, I have a product I want to sell right now on the internet, social media is probably not the way to go. But if you're trying to build a brand that, you know, you want to associate with certain personality types and certain demographics, then it's a good investment to make, because, you know, you can pay whoever a popular influencer is that fits your ethics and your kind of image to hype you a little bit and build an audience.
Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think it's about relationships, and that's really what marketing has always been about. And social media is a really good way to sort of manage those relationships. And then when you have that relationship, it's easier then to do a promotion strategy that might lead to a return on investment. So, you know, if we know that you shop at a certain place and you've shopped there over time and you've bought things online, and then we send you an email or an ad that says, hey, 30% off today, you'd be more likely to do that. But that's a promotion campaign that's built on the relationship we've already invested in.
Okay. Dustin, what kind of return on investment are we seeing in social media and digital marketing, if any? What kind of numbers?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tie, you know, actual numbers. I couldn't quote a statistic or anything. I could just say that in my experience working with it, over the last couple years, sometimes brands, I think, wanted to attach an ROI number to it in ways that were just impossible. And it's kind of, I see it, again, more as more of a branding thing. It would be tough to say, oh, you know, Twitter has driven this much revenue for the clients I've worked with over the last couple of years, because that's something that's really difficult to kind of quantify.
Okay, great. Would you?
I think over the past few years, the return on investment has been very tricky for people to try and calculate. And you'll see a lot of firms try and tell you that they can absolutely calculate it. And it's refreshing to hear that you're not necessarily promising that, because it is pie in the sky kind of numbers at this point. Doesn't mean it always will be, but.
So it may not be known yet, but is there an average time that it takes for social media or digital marketing to become part of a sales cycle with a product? Is there any information on that? It might be too early to say, since it's more of a kind of other impacts besides monetary.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would say it's at the top of the cycle, just because it's more of an awareness thing.
Okay.
Like, it's from my experience anyway. And I think kind of touching on what she said earlier too, the platforms have taken note of the fact that it's difficult to quantify their ROI value and have like evolved their reporting. Like Twitter has much better reporting now.
Recently.
You can see like how many people have retweeted you and how many people clicked out on certain links and all that. So.
Kristen, have you found that any kind of content specifically drives the most traffic?
I think it's dependent on the platform and dependent on your audience.
Okay.
So it could be humorous, something, a meme or something that would work in one sense for one type of product and one type of audience, but that would not work in another type of situation.
Is there a certain content that works better for Facebook rather than, or what kind of, that maybe work better for Instagram that you've used in your experience or seen?
Well, it's different mediums, right? So Facebook, you can afford to put more content on, and you have a little bit more control over who you reach. Instagram, it's really a visual means, and you can provide the information, but the picture and that visual or the video now have to stand on their own.
Yeah, no, to add onto that, one of the things we're running into with clients right now is some social media platforms are very close-walled. Like Instagram, for example, at least to my knowledge, you can't link out of Instagram. Right. Whereas with Pinterest, you can. I can post an image on Pinterest and link out to a website or some type of content. So I think those are situations where, depending on what you're trying to do, like she was saying, you'd want to choose more carefully. Like, if you're trying to promote a website through images, Pinterest might be the way to go because you can link back to that website where you couldn't with Instagram.
Kristen, how are target demographics different from traditional marketing to digital marketing, if at all?
I don't think it's different. I think you're the same thing, trying to figure out where your audience is, and if they're online, if they're on their mobile device, if they're on their t-shirt, their shoe, then you're trying to figure out where they are.
Okay, and do you think that there are different demographics targeted for different social media platforms?
Well, for example, if you want to talk age, I think there was a time period where you found sort of a more youthful population on social media, but that's changing nowadays, and especially with new innovations that come out. I think people want to reach wherever the audience is, and we're just trying to find out where they are.
In any of your experience, have you used a specific platform to reach maybe a group between 18 to 25 or just males?
So one thing I noticed a lot of the studios doing when we were doing social media kind of driven campaigns was it's kind of an additional way to engage the audience. So, they would have someone tweet if they saw a certain ad or, for an additional fee to the advertiser. I think, just again, depends on what the goal of the campaign is.
Okay, great. Do either of you, well, let's start with you, Kristen, what are some of your favorite brand marketing or social media campaigns that you can think of?
I should have thought about that. I really enjoyed Matthew McConaughey's of late, just because I think it's pretty persistent and it bodes well for using a traditional medium like TV and print, and then having the word of mouth or the computer-mediated word of mouth happen on social media. I think the more authentic a brand can be about their message wherever they're delivering it, then the better the talk afterwards is about it.
Great. Dustin, what about you?
So I really dig Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know if you've seen much, but his team does some really great stuff with social, like the mean tweets. Have you ever seen their?
Yeah.
Like they have celebrities read mean tweets.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's great. And then they also did, I don't know if you saw, they did this like thing like last year where this girl was like twerking on the wall and she and they released it as just a viral video. No one knew it was actually him until like later in the week he came out and like brought the girl out and was like, and then they like pulled the camera back and him and Snoop Dogg were there or something.
That shows how powerful it is.
Yeah,
they didn't even know that it was a marketing
Totally, campaign. It was a viral video campaign dreamed up by them that, But yeah, I think that's some of my favorite stuff that I've seen. I think they do an ace job with kind of intertwining TV and social.
And Jimmy Fallon also has kind of tried to do that as well. Great. Kristen, ads are becoming so prominent in our day-to-day life, whether we're seeing them on TV or in magazines or on our phone or on the computer. Why are they so important in our culture or society?
Well, I think if you talk to digital marketers, they're saying that the ads are really supporting the free use of these social platforms. I'm not sure that I wholeheartedly believe that, but it does make it much easier for us to use Facebook for free, to use Instagram for free. But I think that's going to shift in the future. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, my background, again, is with working with publishers to monetize, so I kind of always liken it to TV. It's like you get free content because there's advertising in the mix, you know, so.
Great. Dustin, how do you see marketing changing in the next coming years?
I think because of the way that technology is evolving, like everything is going to be personalized based on, you know, your likes and things that you've said you have interest in. Like, you can already kind of see it happening, but you know, you'll like pull up to the gas station and the TV will show you ads for something because of a Wi-Fi beacon in your car or something, you know.
Kristen, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it's personalization and then the creepy factor, right? So personalization and privacy, and I think the White House just released a draft of the Consumer Privacy Bill of Rights, and there's some discussion of where that's going in the future. So we want to personalize, and marketers want to reach you, but how personal is too personal?
Oh, totally.
Right.
It's definitely a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah. I think that we're going to have more of that conversation in the future as we're being tracked with everything that we do.
I mean, I trust corporations to have our best interests in mind, right?
Sure.
Great. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you
for joining me.
Thanks.
Today, 1 out of every 4 American kids is Hispanic. That means many of the future doctors who will care for us, the engineers who will build our cities, the scientists and entrepreneurs of our country can be your kids. We all know how hard it is for you to send them to college. This is why we want you to know you are not alone. And every day more people support you to make it happen. Many support you. And the Hispanic Scholarship Fund helps you prepare, plan, and pay for your kids' college education. HSF.net.
No more pencils, no more books, no more teachers, dirty looks. School's out for summer.
What this place needed was better graduation rates. So we worked with schools like Henry Ford High, and now they're up 18%.
To help us do more good this year, go to unitedway.org, because great things happen when we live united.
Look at these boots.
Man, those are nice. You should buy them.
Half the price of the real thing. Do you want them?
The production and sale of counterfeit goods cause more harm than meets the eye.
Get to work!
And the profits can fund organized crime.
So, do you want them?
Buying counterfeit products?
No way.
It's just not worth it.
Thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CSUN On Point. Sunday mornings, you can watch us on LA's Channel 36 at 11:30, and you can listen on KCSN 88.5 FM at 5:30. That's also Sunday mornings. For all of us here on Point, I'm Teresa Arevalo.